everybody. Welcome to the Straight Outta BS podcast. Thank you guys so much for the continued support. We're actually going to be monetized soon, so that's really cool. I'm really excited to be able to do a lot more with my activism. I want to I appreciate the fuck out of everybody that's been there from the start, and just continue to support, share the videos, subscribe if you're not already, and just get the word out there about these places so we can get them shut down. There's still people in these programs, and we need to, for their sake, get them shut down. So thank you to my Patreon members. If anybody's interested in supporting me that way or by buying merch, there's links in the description. And I want to do a moment of silence for the person still struggling with intrusive thoughts or addiction or anything like that. So on the count of 3, I'm going to do a moment of silence. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you for that. And without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce actually one of my brothers from the program. He was actually in the same family as me. So go ahead and introduce yourself and where you went and what year.
Hey, Jordan. My name is Jeff Malco. I was in Spring Creek with Jordan from 2006, and I graduated in 2008. I spent some time in some other programs after that, but for now, I think we'll just focus on Spring Creek. Okay.
And can you walk us through what was going on before you got sent to the program? Did your parents bring you any booklet or brochure or anything? Did they tell you beforehand that you were going? Can you walk us through that?
No, there's no warning whatsoever. Caught me by surprise. I've always disagreed with my parents. I was very argumentative growing up, and it was challenging. I think so. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I'm from here originally. Sadly, trapped here still, but it's okay. The situation's not bad. But growing up, Salt Lake was a very difficult place to live, mostly because of the Mormon culture, the Mormon community. I did not grow up Mormon. So because of that, there's a lot of ostracization. It was hard to make friends. I switched schools a lot. It was difficult. So at the time, in 2006, when before I got sent to Spring Creek, I was at a charter school, and my parents had received an email stating that they had suspicion that I was smoking weed. And they didn't confront me. They didn't, talk to me, nothing like that. The school wanted my parents to come in for a parent-teacher conference and to discuss this matter. At the time, my sister actually lived up in Spokane. She had just graduated college, and she was working a new job up there. So my dad had tricked me. He had asked me if I wanted to take the weekend to go visit her in Spokane, and I said, yeah, let's go. And so we flew up there, and the second we got off the plane, do you remember Justin the transporter?
Was he like a big?
It was Patty's son.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah.
And it was him. So Justin was there, and I kind of knew something was up the second that I saw him. And so my dad was like, oh yeah, they're going to be escorting us to our hotel. And I was like, okay, cool. So we went with him, and then there's a black Lincoln outside. I'm pretty sure it was a Lincoln. And my dad opened up the door, and Peyton was in there, who was the other transporter. Those who went to Spring Creek or some of the W.W.A.S.P programs may be familiar with these two.
I forgot about Peyton. Shit.
Peyton, yeah. It was interesting. So, I get into the backseat of the car, and my dad is pretending to get into the front seat, and then he shuts the door on me, never gets into the front seat, and just says, oh, I need to go pick up some luggage. I'll be back. And then we drive off. And I just immediately panicked. I was like, oh shit, what the hell's going on? I was 14 years old at the time. I was really scared. I was little. And so I started punching the seat, and Peyton just automatically just cuffs me, and kind of there's a mini restraint, I guess, right? But he handcuffs me, and then he hands me a cigarette. And he's like, where you're going, you're only going to go for 90 days. It's not a big deal. Just calm down. It's only 90 days, man. But this was on December 15th, 2006. And so this was 2 weeks before Christmas. And I was just like, I didn't believe it in the car. I was like, there's just no way that my parents would send me like somewhere for 90 days, like right before Christmas, right?
Yeah.
And so, it was like, whatever. But that drive is long. It's like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, I would just, sitting in the car, smoking and, just listening to music. Little did I know that was the last music I was going to listen to for a very long time. So, because back when we had iPods, like, like actual iPods. And, I remember like rolling up the Thompson Falls and going up the hill and like passing like, the seminar building and the junior staff facility and rolling up and seeing all the cabins and seeing like a little trailer, where Tom and Cliff hung out. And I got out of the car and I walked into the trailer and, Cliff was the first one to introduce himself to me. And I was just like, so I'm only here for 90 days, right? And he just laughed and he's like, no, what we have here is an average of like an 18 to 24 month program. You're going to be here for a while. And I just broke down and cried. Like it was devastating.
That was right there in Staff Central, huh?
Yeah, Staff Central. Yeah, the little trailer. So,
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead, Jordan.
No. You had a thought. Go ahead. Finish it.
No, it's just like I think that especially like after watching the documentary, like it's like when you're in, that is probably one of the hardest situations to be in, is when you finally arrive there and you just realize what it is. It's almost as traumatic as like being transported or being restrained, but that is it's tough.
Yeah, just that second when you realize, holy fuck, like my parents like actually left me here, like.
Yeah.
And then like not even having it fully sink in until a little bit later, at least for me. Like, and then when it finally sinks in, like when you get your commitment letter and your parents are like, oh, well, we actually really expect you to graduate, and then it's like, what the actual, like, what?
What in the fuck? Yeah. I got my commitment letter that day.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so they must have given it to them.
Yeah, they had sent the commitment letter with like in my luggage, and it said that you're going to be here until you graduate the program.
Interesting. Okay. Did they present that to you right away?
Yeah, because like I was begging Cliff for a phone call. I was like, dude, this has to be a mistake. Like,
yeah, I can clear this up.
Yeah, like I hadn't really done anything too serious. Like, I just I was smoking weed, but I wasn't really doing anything else. I had been argumentatively defiant with my parents, but I was an athlete. Like I participated in a lot of sports. I had decent grades. Like I didn't really consider myself to be like a troubled kid or whatever the fuck at that time. And so I was just freaking the hell out. But I remember reading that letter and it strictly said like you were going to sit here or stay until you graduate. There is no manipulation. We committed to the program. Like they were already signed up for the whole fucking ride.
I'd be curious to like I kind of wonder like how long they had been like talking to people about the program before they sent you there,
Yeah, I would be curious about that too. I never got to ask him that question about that. Not about Spring Creek, but the other programs that I went to. We had a lot of discussions about that.
Okay.
But
when you got there, do you remember them handing you a rule manual? Do you remember them going over the rules with you? I know that they buddied people up. Do you remember who your buddy was?
Yeah, so who did my intake? Am I allowed to say names on here? I don't know if you're cool with that or not.
What's up?
It was actually, do you want me to say names on here? Or?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay, cool. So you remember Martin?
Yeah, yep.
Junior staff. Yeah, that's who did my intake.
Nice.
And he looked at me and he was just like, so what brings you here? And I'm like, dude, I have no idea. I'm like, what brought you here? And he's like, I'm court ordered, man. I beat up a cop with a bat. And I was like, oh shit. Like this place is kind of serious. And so he did my intake, and I was in Staff Central for like a couple hours. Like, I mean, Cliff was like ready to just send me over to intervention. He even told me, he's like, dude, if you don't stop crying and freaking out, like I'm taking you over there, and this is, your last chance. Because I was crying for like a couple hours. It was just a huge shock to me, like what had just all happened. And so Eventually I calmed down, and then I went over to, went from Staff Central over to Honor Family. And it was, who did I bunk with at first? Cannot think of his name. It's so funny.
That's fine. If you can't remember names, it's
Murray. It was Murray.
Chris Murray. Okay. Yeah.
Chris Murray.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's why I bunked with the first. And I just shadowed him for a while and kind of got used to stuff. I think I got there. When did you get there?
I got there on January 23rd, 2007. So you had already been there a while after I'd been there?
Like
after
a
I got
month.
there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It ended up like a month or two before you got there. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So you got there. Did they give you a rule manual, or did they just kind of go over rules with you, like with the buddy?
The buddy just mostly went over it with me. I did have a rule manual, but it was like, I actually got one of like those cards to memorize the rules. Remember like the cat? Yeah, like the cat cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just kind of went off that. But I mean, it started to make sense pretty quick, like what to do and what not to do. Like I didn't really have a hard time with adapting to the rules of Spring Creek at first. It was just kind of like being in such a state of shock and being so scared. I was like, I just need to shut up, keep my head down, and just, I guess, do whatever the fuck they need to tell me to do, right? Like,
yeah. So it pretty much sunk in, like right away is what, correct? Like it didn't take like a while for it to sink in. Like, holy crap, this place is crazy.
It did, like I saw it at first, but I was really little. I was like 120 pounds, and I was the youngest kid in Honor. And I think I was like the youngest kid in the facility at the time, on the boys' side at least.
I'm pretty sure you were, yeah.
Yeah, so you remember, I was kind of like a baby. It freaked me out. And so I was like, well, I want to go home. I don't want to fucking sit here until I'm 18. Like, I mean, there's kids I met who like had done like 30 months there at the time. And you're just like, what, dude? Like, you've been here for 30 months? Like, are you serious? And so I followed the rules, and I did what I had. Like, I just did what I had to do, I guess, at first, and I didn't get in any trouble. They almost did restrain me at first for not cutting my hair because I was like refusing to.
Yeah. Actually, Marshall's actually my roommate,
Mm-hmm.
Marshall Duval. So he fucking was like, "Do you remember when that happened to Malco?" And he's like, "You should talk to him about that." Like they
tell him I said hi.
Cut, right?
Yeah, tell him I said hi.
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. What happened with the hair thing? They just restrained you and then to cut your hair because you didn't want to cut it, or?
Yeah, they I didn't want to cut it. And like they didn't want it. They didn't cut it at first. Usually they do, but they're like, we're just gonna wait till Sunday. I think I got sent there on like a Thursday, or a Wednesday. Pretty sure it was Thursday though. And so they're like, yeah, we'll just cut it on Sunday, and like, we'll just like let you keep it for a few days. And I was like crying and just like freaking out because I was like, I felt like at that point, after being there for 4 days and like losing my clothes and losing my belongings, like this was like the last thing that I had, right? And like I just didn't want to lose it. And so I kind of had a meltdown, and it was Eric Anderson and a couple other people who, like junior staff, who came up to me and they're like, look, this is your last chance. We're going to restrain you if you don't cut it. Like, you're going to go in there right now. We're going to shave it off. And so I just like looked at all of them and I was like, oh shit, I guess like, here we go. Let's just cut it. And
yeah,
so
you were like me. You had long hair when I came. Yeah. I had a long hair too.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, they shave everybody's head. It's fucking insane. Do you remember who was working the family when you went in there? Was it Big Al?
Big Al was not there yet. It was actually Grant and
my God, Brad. I forgot about Grant.
Yeah, it was Grant and Brad.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Brad too. Okay. How long after you got there did you go through your first seminar? And was it orientation? Was that your first seminar, or was it discovery?
Yeah, no, orientation was my first seminar. I think I went to orientation with you, I think.
Yeah, actually we did. We did go to orientation.
We were in orientation. It was in January, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I believe so. Yep.
Yeah, we went through the seminars with each other.
I think we went pretty soon after we got there, actually.
Yeah. So it was when I had gotten there, I think they had just I had just missed them, and so we had to wait like the 6 weeks or whatever until January.
Yeah, that's what happened. Yep. Do you remember? Do you remember much about orientation or the seminars?
I do. Okay. Yeah. I mean, parts of it I blacked out. I mean, which seminar, like orientation in general, or?
Just orientation in general, because I remember that they got rid of it later on. So I'm kind of trying to recall like what the processes were in orientation. Like, was it like the red black game and stuff like that, and like just kind of.
No, we did that in Discovery. In orientation, we did the groups and we learned about like the slogans, behavior follow beliefs, you're accountable for all your life or whatever, like you know, the Andian bullshit. It was and then we did like the groups, like the mini groups, remember, where we had to like share and get real, but we didn't do like the towels, we didn't punch walls. I'm trying to remember. I think we may have done towel. No, that was Discovery.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was Discovery. I think we didn't do that in orientation, but I feel like they were alluding to something like that.
Yeah. So that's what it was kind of like going towards. But we did dance. We did the Poot Scoot and Boogie.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. We did. Shit, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But I remember. Do you remember getting chosen out of Focus?
Okay, so I didn't get chosen out of Focus.
Did you not know? You didn't know about it?
I didn't know about what?
The giver taker process.
What do you mean? I didn't get chosen out of Focus.
You got through your first time?
Yeah, I got through my first time. Yeah, I chose out of principles.
No, do you remember how all of Honor got chosen out of Focus for knowing about the giver taker process? You weren't part of that then?
No, I had already graduated, I think. Maybe.
Really?
Or something like that, because I remember I know that I got through Focus the first time. Because okay, I rebelled for my first year. You remember me getting removed a lot, right?
Yeah.
So I rebelled for my first year. So by the time when they threatened me with Jamaica, then I was like, okay, well, I gotta, I'm just gonna do what you tell me to do, because they said they were gonna send me there without telling my parents, and then I was like, okay, well, fuck that. Because everybody had been telling me how about they don't have child protection laws and all that shit. So by that time, I was like, I'm gonna just do what you tell me to do. So I busted ass. Like, I made sure that I got through shit. So I got through Discovery and then Focus, and then I chose out of Principles because Principles was the one where you had to do everything exactly perfect.
Yeah, right.
The homework.
So the homework was crazy. I got to Principles my first time actually, but you don't remember Honor getting chosen out for going about the giver taker process?
Maybe I wasn't in the family when that happened.
You got through Discovery your first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
What happened with that though?
Well, what happened was like you know how like they had the rule like what stays in the seminar, like when you talk what goes on the seminar stays in the seminars, right? But obviously like people talked about it, like we all like just like told like of course we were gonna and so it was W.W.A.S.P and like a couple other people who like found out in detail what the giver taker process was, because like they really wanted
before they went in. Yeah.
And so we kind of had like, this whole thing going on in the family where it's like, well, we're just going to give all each other givers, we're not going to give anyone takers. And so we did it. And then somehow, I don't know who whistleblowed on it or whatever, but like someone said something, and then they had noticed that like all of the Honor kids in there had given each other givers and not given any like each other takers. So they sent everyone from Honor home. We all chose out of the seminar.
Dude, I think I was out of the family by then, but I remember that happening. Maybe I was working the family when that happened. Maybe.
I thought
maybe I was staffing that Focus.
Maybe I don't know, because if we went through Discovery with each other, then we would have been in that Focus with each other. Maybe you got through that Focus and you just weren't. I don't know, like you just maybe weren't part of it or something.
Maybe because I remember maybe what happened is a bunch of people got chosen out, like the greater percentage of the family.
Yeah.
And so it was like almost like the whole family. Because that's weird.
There was like 6 kids who got through that Focus in general. It was like one of the smallest Focuses I had seen in like Spring Creek.
Well, maybe, I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that I fucking got through all my seminars the first time.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe that happened and I was just so traumatized by it that I just like fucking completely blocked it out. But I'm pretty sure that I got, so who knows? That's crazy, but that's the kind of stuff that they would do. They give you withholding and drop the whole family. How long did it take you to get to, oh wait, did you graduate the program?
So kind of. I got to level 6 and I was actually trainer, if you remember.
I remember that.
And so I had a really bad PC2. My parents, like, they hated the seminars. You know, like my parents were like both like, they were academics, you know, they were just like, they were intellectual, like, and they kind of found this to be like goofy. They saw through the shit at first. But my mom, during my mom's focus, like she had gotten called out and she got embarrassed in front of like the entire seminar. She's just not the person to do that to. She actually almost walked out of the seminar. And I kind of wish that she would have. I was like, fuck, I wish she would have just left. But no, she stayed and like, you know, fought it out and just, you know, stuck around. Like, 'cause she was like, no, I want him to graduate the program or whatever. But it was interesting. I actually skipped PC1. I don't know how like, because I got to level 4 within like 6 or 7 months, right? And so my parents, like, they had gone through focus, but they didn't want to go through the parent-child seminars. And they just kind of felt like it was a waste of time and they didn't want to do it. And so like my family rep at an upper level was Miss Becky. And she was just like begging my parents, just like, hey, like, what can we do to get you back into the seminars? Just trying to like, you know, get them like to drink the Kool-Aid again. But they were kind of at the point where they're like, no, we've done Discovery and Focus. Like, this is Jeff's program. Let him figure it out. But she's like, okay, what if we skip PC1 and we just go to PC2? Because PC2 was held in St. George at Cross Creek. They lived in Salt Lake City, but actually Laverkin, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
But, so they're like, yeah, you know, they were down for it. So they drove down to St. George, went over to Laverkin. I flew out for PC2. And this was December 2007. So within a year of being sent there, I was level 5. And I was expected to go home like pretty quick, like around like the 14 to 16 month area. But that didn't work out, and I'll get into that. But we went to PC2, and we were like sitting in like in our own group that night. And the facilitator was just like, now kids, I want everyone to like get inside your feelings and tell your parents what the truth is and what you really want to do when you go home. And I just looked at my parents. I was like, no, I'm ready to come home. Like, I don't want to do anything. I feel like I've changed and I'm excited to be with you guys again. And that's pretty much just what I told them. And with one of the, I can't remember if it was it was a facilitator, because they had like multiple facilitators at PC2.
Yeah.
One of them came around and she was just like looking at me, and no, it was a guy actually, but he was like looking at me and he was just like, you're not being real, you're being fake. You need to get in touch with yourself and be honest and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And was just pushing me. And like, my parents were just like, can you kind of like just leave him alone? Like, you know, they were getting frustrated too. And he just would not stop. And he was just digging into this. And I was like, fuck, fine. I know what he wants to hear. So I just said, I was like, Mom, Dad, like, yeah, I want to come home and use drugs still. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm just some giant drug addict, I guess. I crave all the drugs, you know, even though I only done weed. And he was like, that's it. Now we're getting real. That's the spirit, Jeff. And so my parents, like, they looked at me just like, what the fuck? And so, you know, they're just like, well, we don't really feel too confident in taking you fucking home if that's what you want to do. You know, so so I left PC2, like, it was a complete fucking mess. Like, my parents were just like, we cannot believe you. We can't believe you still want to go home and use drugs. You've been at this program for a fucking year. We've spent all this money. What the fuck, Jeff? Like, you know, so they're pretty furious, but I didn't have a choice. Like, the facilitator was not going to back off unless I fucking said some bullshit like that, right? Like, so
that's what they do.
Did that. Yeah, that's what they do, you know. And so I did that, and my parents, like, when I got back, do you remember the candy incident?
Okay, remind me, and I'll probably.
Yeah, me and McAtee. So do you remember the hazing incident with with Scott?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
The junior staff hazing bullshit. That was kind of. I mean, rest in peace to Scott. He was a great kid. You know, that was just like. So yeah, so when I became an upper level, like, I was not liked by the other junior staff, and it was partly because, like, when I had first been sent to Spring Creek, I was really little. I was considered to be a bitch. I was like, not, you know, it was hard for me to adapt to that. Like, I was like, you remember me, dude. I was a really tiny dude, just had a hard time. And so when I became an upper level, like, the upper levels did not like me. I barely got voted up onto the team. Like, you know, they didn't want me on there. In fact, they were trying to drop me. Like I was getting cat 3s every day for having fucking lint on my mirror, like literally just lint. I remember like when my parents came to visit me for the first time for like a facility visit, they spent $200 on cleaning supplies, like on microfiber towels and Windex and just fancy like sprays. And like, I was just like, you know, doing everything I could because I was afraid I was going to lose my level and get dropped. And so like they were just like trying to get me dropped already, and it was just whatever. But then the hazing incident happened. And you remember that?
Explain for people that what happened?
Yeah, so you know, there's a kid named Scott. Sadly, he passed away after the program. But when he was there, they used to have these group activities for the junior staff. And if the junior staff, like those who did well and didn't have category 3 like consequences or, you know, whatever, mostly the popular junior staff, they got to go down for an activity to the junior staff facility where they would grill steaks and they'd have sodas and candy and play video games, and you know, there'd be all sorts of fun stuff. And then the junior staff, and then the junior staff that wasn't light, which was, you know, me at the time, we were left on the lower level facility to monitor the families and the kids and just, you know, do all that work, which was so much fun. So there's this one time, and it was probably like 80%, I want to say like 80% of the junior staff, they're heading down from the lower level facility to the upper level facility, which are like walking down like that, you know, the hill in Thompson Falls. And there's this kid named Scott, and they had hazed him. I can't remember the exact details of what they did, but I know that they made him like walk like a dog and bark like a dog, and they had like been like slapping him with belts and just doing all sorts of stupid shit. And so because of that, it was kind of like a fluke. The entire junior staff that was participating in that activity had gotten dropped down to like level 3. And all of the junior staff that was left on the facility, which was me and like Ryan Sandoval and like a couple other people. I think you were on the team at that time, weren't you?
I was probably on the team by that time.
Yeah, you were on the team at that time.
I dropped a fuckload of times from the team though, so this might have been one of those.
I swear you were on the team with me when this happened.
Yeah.
So you know, it was like a fluke, but they're like, look, we need new trainers and we need new admin staff. And so I remember Ryan Sandoval became a trainer. What's his face? Matt, I can't remember his last name, but he became the other trainer.
Matt
and then
Bernard?
Bernard, yeah.
Yep.
And then they put me in McAtee in admin. But McAtee had already graduated the program. He had been sent back. Yep. So I was like, hell yeah, like we're gonna work admin with each other. And so we had access to the candy bars. We were the guys that, like, our job was like taking photos of the kids for their IDs. We, you know, inputted their names into the database. We handed out the candy bars that you saw in the documentary to them every single week. Like that was what we did for our junior staff duties. But me and McAtee got the bright idea that we were just going to take backpacks of candy from Spring Creek down to the upper level facility. And yeah, we did it like every single day. We would just like, because we did the inventory of the candy, so we would have to order it. And so they had no fucking idea. We were just taking like backpacks just full of candy and candy. Nice. And just like sharing the wealth with the other junior staff. But so we did that, and I can't remember who fucking opened their big mouth about that one. But like when I came back from PC2, the word had gotten out of what had happened. And at the time, McAtee had left because he was only there for like the 60-day like warranty fucking shit that they had right after. And so he was like long gone. And so it was just me working, like, who's supposed to be working admin. But they made this huge deal about it. Like Cliff got involved, Patty got involved, Mickey Manning got involved. It was just, and they were just interrogating like every single junior staff, being like, we need to know about the candy, like what happened. And I felt really bad because like some of the junior staff was like ready to go home. Like they were about to go to PC3 in that December. And so I remember like sitting in the, what was the office called that like this family were at?
So there was Teton, and then there was admin, And then there was, are you talking about the first building that you come upon?
Yeah, we're Patty
where you do the phone calls?
Yeah, where you do the phone calls.
I think that's just the family rep's office or something like that.
Yeah, it was just, I can't remember how a specific name, but it was just, I remember like most of us were put into a meeting room in there, and we were all supposed to write SOSs. And like everybody was looking at me because they just knew that like it was me. And I raised my finger up and I was just like, one bag. And so everybody thankfully on their SOS they knew only about one backpack being taken down.
Nice.
Right. And so they dodged a bullet. They just got like a 3.5, which was like a cat 3.5, which is Spring Creek's own thing. I haven't heard of other programs doing that, but it was like, it just dropped you a level, because the cat 4 would drop you, I think, like 2 or 3 levels. But
no, cat 4 was back to level 1, 0 points, I think.
No, that was cat 5. Cat 4 was like, cat 4 was like, it would drop you like 2 or 3 levels, I thought.
Yep.
Remember?
2 or 3 levels. Yep. That's correct.
So yeah, they all just got their 3.5, but luckily they all got like those who were supposed to go home still got they got their PC3, they got to graduate and leave. But I was sitting in school one day, and like I just thought I was going to get a 3.5. I was like, okay, that's not bad. I'll lose my level 5 and get a level 4 or whatever. And then Mr. Dave comes in, who was the junior staff. And he's just like, well, yeah, he's like, guess what, Malco? He's like, I guess the ghost of Christmas past is coming to haunt you forever. And I was like, what the fuck? And he's like, I got your shit in the van. He's like, let's go. You're going to Respect. And I was like, what did I do? And he's like, oh, you know what you did. And so we drive over to Respect, drop my stuff off, and then we drive over to the family rep's office. I walk into Miss Becky's office, and she's like, I don't believe a fucking thing she's like, I don't believe for a fucking second that you stole just one backpack of candy. She's like, that is bullshit. She's like, you're not being honest. And so she's like, she's like, I know that no one else is going to tell on you because they want to go home. And I understand how the upper levels are. But she's like, I'm going to give you a cat 5 and you're going back to level 1, 0 points. And this was right before Christmas. And she's like, just for your information, she's like, you did have a Christmas visit planned out, and that's not happening anymore. And I was just like, oh, you gotta be fucking kidding me. So, I got dropped back down to level 1, 0 points, and I was in Respect. And it sucked because a lot of kids who would drop, like a lot of junior staff who would drop down, they would maybe sit in in the family for like a month or like a couple of weeks, and then like their family rep would give them their level back. No, I had to earn every single point back, all 2,000 points.
Yeah, that's what happened every single time too. Yeah. Yeah,
it was bullshit. So it was an interesting experience. But hey, I think we sold thousands of dollars worth of candy. So
nice.
It's kind of worth. I don't know. It was interesting.
It was some excitement,
Yeah, it was cool.
Okay. So you didn't actually go through the graduation ceremony, did you? Or did you have trailer lights?
No, what happened was, so I got to level 6, worked every point that I had back. And I got the trainer, and then, I went on my last home visit. And so my parents were just like, when I went on the home visit, they're like, look, we have no interest in flying out to San Diego or whatever to go to PC3. Honestly, it would be fine if you just wanted to stay here. Like I didn't manipulate them or anything. They offered this to me. They're like, we're kind of done with the place. Like Miss Becky's gone, because all the family reps had been fired or laid off by that point. And it was just Mr. Dave and I think Mitch, who was, they were just doing the phone calls. So they were done with it. And, they're just like, you can just stay here. Like it's over. So I kind of I consider myself to be graduated, but not technically. From that program, just because I did get level 6 in trainer, but no, I did not do trail lights. I did not do PC3, but I did complete all the requirements to do so.
Okay. Did you have a live contract at all?
Yeah, I did. I had a live contract. And my parents, their attitude was just like, throw it in the trash. We just want you to follow the 10 commandments. And I was like, okay, whatever. So.
Okay. What was the hardest part about being at Spring Creek, and how did you handle it?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think there's a lot of things that were tough for me. I think like just being that young, and not really having like done anything to be sent there. Like it was hard for me to process all that. I'm not saying it's any easier being 16 and getting sent away. Like I've been in that situation too, but like it was scary. The hardest thing was is like I didn't know how long I was going to be there. Like Spring Creek was, in the W.A.S.P programs in general, were very long programs. Like you don't hear many people who did it in a year or like did it in 14 or 16 months. Like the average was literally 18 to 24, and that's doing the fucking best you possibly can. So I think that was like the hardest thing for me, is like I didn't know how long I was going to be there. But how I got through it was, my friends, relationships, like, Anthony, you, Russell. I think that, like, especially in honor, we had some close bonds. There's some people that I think we fucking hated each other.
Yeah.
But, that's what got you through. It was like, when you got a bad letter and you could just go cry on your friend's bed and you could talk it through, and like you had that support. Like those kinds of relationships, I don't think I've ever really been to replicate outside of the program, unless it's been with people who I was there with, right? Like I hopped on a phone call with Anthony like a couple months ago, and we talked for like 4 hours straight. And I haven't seen him and talked to Anthony in like, almost like 18 years now. And that's just like crazy to think about. Like, it's just, you have that bond still and you have that connection. At least in, in other programs, I know it's harder to make friends, but I feel like in Spring Creek, like we did have some good friendships with each other.
Yeah, that was definitely a positive. Yeah, I don't think I would have been able to make it through. I had some really low points in my program. I was suicidal. I attempted suicide a couple of times. So, I mean, like,
yeah. I know you had a really hard time dealing with it, and it was tough.
Yeah, it was tough on both of us.
Yeah, it was hard, man.
We both dealt with like being bullied a bit in the program.
Yeah.
That I dealt with, like, that. Do you remember when I first got there and they caught me in that lie or whatever? They're like, "What's your favorite kind of cigarette?" And they're like, "Is it Camel 69s?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's the one." And they're like, "Those don't exist. You're a fucking liar." And then they like held that against me for like 2-3 months. Like everybody in the family just didn't like, they were like, "Don't talk to him. If he's gonna lie about that, he's a fucking liar," like. So I mean, like, I know that we both dealt with bullying, being outcasts, like dealing with that shit. So
yeah, it was tough. Like, I mean, it was very violent when we were there. There is like, I mean, they considered it just horseplay. I don't really view it like that. I mean, I think that you and I both, we got hit a lot. We got the shit beat out of us a lot. It was tough. Like I remember, like, being put into the bathroom every night and like getting hit with shower poles. And I know you were in the same situation. I remember like getting woken up to having like your genitals fucking hit. And I know you went through that too. Like it was just, or being knocked off your fucking bunk bed. That happened to you a couple times. Like it was this shit, and it was scary. Like, because you were little too. Like, I mean, you were older than me, but you were small, and you were about my size.
I've always been a smaller dude. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, yeah, I'm about 6 foot now, but at the time, I think I was like, wow, like 5'2" or some shit. Like I was little. Like, I was like 120 pounds. Like it was rough. And so, being there with like some of these bigger kids, and like I'm not gonna mention their names, but it was intimidating. And these were kids who like came from violent backgrounds. They knew how to fight. They knew how to do shit. And it's hard to defend yourself.
They knew how to intimidate you too.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's hard to deal with that. And like you can't really talk to your parents. You can't write this shit in letters. You can't talk to Jimbo. You can't talk to anybody. Like your family rep's not going to take it seriously. The family fathers aren't going to take it seriously. Like no one does. And so like, what do you do? Right. And then if you snitch or you rat, like you're just put into a shittier situation where like this person's going to come back at you. I remember like being a junior staff, and like I had consequented a kid. And I don't know if you remember this, but like he freaked the fuck out and like beat the
times. Yeah.
Beat the shit out of me. Like it was bad. And I did everything I could defend myself, but I was a lot smaller than him. Like I was like still really little. And this kid was like easily had like a good like 40, 50 pounds on me and just like swung hard and like knocked me out. And like, I remember like going down to the junior staff facility that night and like Mr. Day just looked at me. He's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You don't know how to defend yourself? And it's just like, man,
Yeah.
you know, it's hearing shit like that. Like that was, I feel like, some of the hardest stuff to get through.
Definitely. You want to go into the other places that you went?
Yeah, you know, I'll talk about that. I've talked about it before, and you know, I went to a place called Liahona Academy. Marshall is very aware of this. I talked to him about this before. And so when I got out of Spring Creek, I left. It was either May, no, it was June 2008. Like I literally left like 2 weeks before I was supposed to go to the PC3 or whatever.
And how long were you there? How long were you there?
I was there for 18 months
Okay.
at Spring Creek. So, you know, it was like, and so I just gotten out, and you know, my parents, like I said, like my dad was a professor, my mom worked at a hospital, like they just, you know, they were gone all the fucking time. And so when I got out, there was like just nothing for me to do. And I had heard all these stories about like, you know, psychedelics and raving and like just getting into stuff when, you know, when I was there. So I decided, I was like, well, I'm going to go explore. And so I would leave my parents' house during the day and I would just walk around downtown and meet people. And, you know, I hung out with some old friends, and, you know, I started smoking weed again, and I started smoking cigarettes, and then, you know, I started taking ecstasy, and I went to my first rave and I loved it. And like, you know, I got into psychedelics, and then I started sneaking out at night to do this stuff. And, you know, it was a very eventful summer. It was the summer of 2008. And I met like a whole new group of friends and like a beautiful support system that I just like never really had before. And it was, you know, it was fun. You know, one night I was supposed to start high school the next day. I got the bright idea to take 5 hits of acid with my friends. And I had done acid before, but it was like just 1 or 2 hits. I didn't know what 5 was like. It was, you know, it was a very different game. And being that young, like I barely turned 16, and like, you know, I just couldn't make sense of it. So I took the 5 hits, and I just went completely catatonic. I like just lost sense of my identity. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know where I was. All I really knew is like I had high school the next day and I needed to get home. So my friends had like kind of found a way to get me home, and that was good, you know. And so I got home, and my sister had decided to lock me out of the house because I had like a little window that I would escape from. And so she locks me out of the house, and I can't get back in. I'm like, oh, dude, fuck her. Like, this is some bullshit. And so I'm already losing my mind. Like, I just want to get inside and like, you know, like just try to get myself together. And so I'm outside and I'm like taking my clothes off. I'm pretty much like butt naked. I'm ripping hair out of my head. I'm just losing my shit. And my dad comes out. It's like 7 a.m. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? And I'm just like, I need to talk to you. And he's just like, what's going on? Are you drunk? And I'm like, no. I'm like, I did something different, Dad. And he's like, well, what is it? And I'm like, I'm on 5 hits of acid. He's like, oh God, fucking damn it. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I was just like, I think I need to go to the hospital. I was just like, can you please like send me to Primary Children's? And my mom worked at Primary Children's at the time. So he was like, absolutely not. Your mom is a pediatric specialist. We're not fucking going up there. Like, no way in hell. He's just like, that's gonna embarrass her. So like, I was like, well, then what do we do? He's like, I'm gonna take you to a hotel room. And so he takes me to a hotel, parks me in there for like a couple hours. And I'm just sitting in this hotel room, like ordering room service, like looking at the bacon, just watching the bacon like melt. And I'm like, fuck, you know. And he comes back and he's like, hey, yeah. He's like, we're going to go rent a movie. And I'm like, I really want to fucking go to uni. Like, I think I need to go to, like, just send me up to the fucking hospital, please. And he's like, no. He's like, we're going to go rent a movie. He's like, we're gonna have some father-son time. I think I can get you out of this bad trip. Just, you know, hang in there with me. And I'm like, all right, you know, what do I got to lose? So we roll up the Blockbuster. And the second we roll up the Blockbuster, there's a Chevy Malibu there. And I'm like when I get up there, I'm in like basketball shorts, flip flops, and just like a regular t-shirt. And these two Polynesian guys get out of the car. They're just fucking massive. And they just look at me and they're like, we can do this the hard way or the easy way. And I'm just like, fuck. And so like I book it in the parking lot and they just tackle me like right onto the fucking, like onto the ground. And they're just dragging me and I had like scrape marks on me and I'm like hitting the ground. I'm like, fuck you. Like, this is bullshit. They throw me into the back of the car, handcuff me. They weren't as nice as Peyton and Justin. Like they were pretty fucking mean. So we drive down, we get to St. George. It's like a 4 to 5 hour drive from Salt Lake City, depending on the stops and shit that you make. And so we get down to St. George and then we go through Laverkin, actually past Cross Creek on the way to this next program. And we go to this town called Virgin, which is like right outside of Zion's. Like it's a couple miles right before Zion hits. And I both go to this place called Liahona Academy. And it was not like Spring Creek at all. From like the facility wise, there was not cabins. This was in the middle of the desert. It was actually somewhat of like a nice looking facility on the outside, but on the inside, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't like, this wasn't like Passages in Malibu or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was more like an upgraded version of like Cross Creek, but just a much smaller facility.
I was just about to ask that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I got there, there was about 42, 43 kids in the program. When I got there, they were just, they went to bed early there. Like at Liahona, I think he went to bed at like 8 o'clock, like on the dot. So they were just like, yeah, we're going to start sending you to bed. And the regular staff wasn't there to do an intake or anything. So I just slept in the commons area on a mattress with the lights on and just finishing my acid trip. And, the next morning the staff come in and, I tell them I'm coming off of acid and that, they're like, we don't really care. Like, we don't do detox here. That's your problem. You have to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, whatever. And, I was just like, so how long is this program going to take? They're like, this is about a 9 to 12 month program. And I actually remember sitting there and I was just like, oh, that's not bad at all. Like, like where I come from. But yeah, it was quite terrible. Liahona was different than Spring Creek in a lot of ways. A lot of similarities. Like there was a level structure and a point structure, but there was 5 levels. There was a junior staff, but on the junior staff, there was maybe like, if you were level 4 or 5, you were considered junior staff at Liahona. But there was probably like 8 junior staff members. At Spring Creek, when we were there, I think when we first got there must have been like 60 or 70 junior staff members, right? It was a big junior staff team. So, Liahona, how you got your points though, is you had to memorize something called the quote. And this was not easy for a lot of kids. Some of the quotes we had were like Shakespeare poems, and I'm talking just like 10 Shakespeare poems, like, back to back, like multiple pages. We headed to the U.S. Constitution one time, and what you would do is you'd memorize this, and you had to say it word for word and recite it back to a staff member. And if you didn't do it within the week time period, you would only get half your points. And not only on top of that, you had to do that quote. You would say that week's quote to the staff member, but if you were level 1 or 2, you had to do the previous week's quote and say that to the staff member. And once you got to level 5, you didn't have to do the quote anymore. But Liahona was tough in different ways. Like, we weren't allowed to talk to each other when you first got there. No, not at all. Like, there was no talking whatsoever. It was complete silence. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, at Spring Creek, I realized, like, yeah, that's what really got me through it the first time, was like having my friends and having people to talk to. But at Liahona, no. It took about 3 to 4 months to get level 2. Like, when you came in, you were level 1, and it was different than Spring Creek. Like, I think you had a 28-point system per week that you would get, and you did have consequences, but they weren't like category 1s and 2s. It was essays. So for instance, and like the rules there were just super fucking strict. Like I'm talking like if you put too much ketchup on your hot dog, you would get a 300-word essay. Or like if you went a second over your shower time, you would get a 300-word essay. If your shirt was untucked even a little bit, you would get a 300-word essay. And if you talk back to the staff, there was no staff correction, like your self-correction, like at Spring Creek. It was like, no, you're going to get your head fucking put into the ground, restrained, and thrown outside for a couple hours. And, so it was tough. The kids weren't like violent with each other. Like that shit was just not allowed. So there was no roughhousing, but the staff was very violent. I mean, these dudes that work there literally looked like they came out of a fucking Marvel movie or something. Like it was obviously just like ex-mission guys that came back from their mission, didn't really do much with their lives and just worked out all the time and, worked at the treatment center and just beat the shit out of kids. It was how I would describe Liahona. It was rough and it was scary. For me, when I got sent to Liahona, my parents had sent the letter with me as well. And this time they had said a lot of, it was mostly my mom, but she had said like a lot of really terrible things to me, just, like that she was like disgusted with me and she just couldn't believe, that I would like, do this and all this shit. But they said to me, they're like, look, you're not coming home. Like they said in the letter, we want to keep you there until you're 18, but we're willing to compromise. You have to graduate the program and graduate high school in order to come home. So, the cool thing though, well, it was kind of shitty because of Spring Creek. I didn't realize this, but my credits didn't fully transfer over. And only some of them did, but I was actually like pretty far behind in school because of Spring Creek. So I hadn't even finished like my freshman year, according to like the state of Utah. Like Liahona, unlike Ivy Ridge and some of these W.W.A.S.P programs, like actually was an accredited high school. Like they did give out real diplomas. Not saying much about the program or anything. I'm not commending them. It's a terrible fucking place. But I will say this, the school at Liahona compared to Spring Creek was so much fucking better. Like, I mean, at Spring Creek, we had like one teacher per 30 kids and like, we were all in different classes and were you allowed like 5 minutes with the teacher and that was it to like ask a question? Do you remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
All self-taught.
All self-taught. It was like really shitty. It sucked, man. Like I hated that.
Did they actually have teachers there?
Yeah, we did at Liahona. We had like real teachers. These are people who had degrees. You don't need a degree in Utah to be a teacher or not, but like, we did have like actual like, we had, for instance, we had engineers who would come in and they would teach like calculus and algebra and physics. And we had like, actual English teachers. Like I actually did really like the English teacher down there. She was really cool. Like her and I were like pretty cool with each other. And, like you did have that, like, and you did get some good help. And you didn't take one class at a time. You would actually take like your entire grade at a time. So if you were a sophomore, you would take like, all your first semester classes and then your second semester classes. And sometimes they would let you like take like a junior level class if you needed to add in another class. And so like, no, you flew through school there. Like, and I actually did 18 credits in a year, or I guess in 14 months, and I graduated high school there. And, it was really cool. I like, and I was stoked on that. Like I got my diploma. It was a legit diploma. I took the ACTs. Like I got into the University of Utah, but I decided not to go at first. And I just went to the community college instead. And so, it wasn't bad, but I'm talking to school wise, like I felt like that was something you didn't really have at Spring Creek. Like, I don't really remember anyone taking the SATs or the ACTs. I don't remember anyone like filling out like a college application or like, anything like, I don't remember any of that kind of shit. Like, but at Liahona, like that was something like you'd have real discussions about this. And, so that, I guess that was the only decent part about it. The food was better than Spring Creek. I will say that. That's probably about it. But the rules were a lot stricter, and like you did not fuck around there. Like it was not. I mean, you remember being a lower level in Spring Creek, and like sometimes you would go at it with the staff, like Big Al or, you know, Grant or something, or, you know, like you would talk shit and then you would like apologize later and they would be cool with you. If you even fucking tried any of that at Liahona, I mean, it was game over. Like you were gonna get the living shit beat out of you. It was not a joke. The restraints there fucking hurt. And we didn't have like an isolation there, like an isolation room like that you would see in the documentary. We didn't have a hobbit or anything like that. We had something called work crew, which if you got over a 900 word essay or higher, what they would do is they would put you into a pink jumpsuit or like an orange jumpsuit, and you would have to stare at a wall, and it would be for just days, weeks, months at a time, just depending on what you did. And you couldn't look away from the wall. If you looked away from the wall once, you got another essay. If you did it twice, you got another essay as well. If you did it 3 times, they would restrain you again and take you outside. And when they took you outside, this was in the, you know, the dry, hot, like, you know, southern Utah weather. It was nothing to fuck around with. You would run like 50 to 100 laps, which, you know, was the equivalent of like maybe doing like 8 to 10 miles. No water, nothing. They would make you carry around boulders around, you know, the track where you ran laps. We would dig holes. We would do all sorts of just exhausting shit. It was nothing to fuck around with. So like work crew was, you wanted to avoid that. I don't really remember them doing that at Spring Creek necessarily. Like it was more just like they're going to take you to the Hobbit and just restrain you and make you sit in a chair and beat the shit out of you until you comply. But yeah, Spring Creek. Yeah, I mean, at Liahona, it was tough. I also felt like at Liahona, like the program just went by a lot quicker. Like I've spent like over about 40 months of my life inside these places. I got sent back to Liahona twice. Like it was, you know, and I was supposed to stay there until I was 18, and then I actually ran away, and I was successful with it, but which is pretty cool. But the thing is that like, you know, it's dude, it's, you know, like even just like thinking about like the documentary and just watching it like the past couple of days, like it's, you know, I didn't talk to my family for years because of this. You know, we're like, you know, my dad's dead now. You know, he died in prison during the pandemic of COVID. You know, I don't really talk to my mom. Just on my own. Like my friends that I met, like in between the glimpses of like freedom I had or the life I had in between these places, like they're my family, you know. And it's been really powerful. Like since this documentary came out, like they've all watched it with me, and they've watched it on their own several times, and like they cried and they were just like, dude, I had no idea that it was this bad. Like I know you talked about it, but we had no idea that like this is what the fuck you were going through. And you know, it's kind of a beautiful thing, I think, for me right now to like just have that support and have that love from them, and seeing that. So, yeah, it's been interesting.
Awesome. What was the worst thing that you heard about or saw at Spring Creek, and what was the worst thing you heard about or saw at I'm forgetting the name of the second one.
Oh, Liahona Academy.
Liahona. Okay.
At Spring Creek, what was the worst thing I saw or heard about? It's a tough one. I mean, like, I think, dude, like really just being there for the first couple months, like with you, and just like the violence that we faced, like that was really fucking hard.
Yeah, it was really hard. It was scary.
Yeah, like every single night, it was just super intense, and just, you know, that was rough. But also like the psychological hell of just, you know, not knowing how the fuck to like get out of there. That was really tough. At Liahona, I watched someone die, and he died in my arms. And that was the 3rd time that I was there. That was really tough. I don't even, it's hard for me to even find the language to describe like how painful or how tragic that was. Because like, you know, in the documentary, like they talk about like how like, you know, they would get kids to like con parents pretty much. Like you remember this, like if parents came up to like view the facility, you would have to like bullshit them, like, oh yeah, this place changed my life. It's so fucking wonderful. I'm like this, I've had this come to Jesus. I'm this new man who's like, doing so great. But it was disgusting because they forced us to write letters to his parents. And after he died, and then his parents came to the facility and they forced us to lie to his parents. That was just fucking terrible. Like, I wanted so bad just to stand up and be like, you guys don't fucking know the truth of how he died and what happened. And, it was very traumatic. So, for me at least, like, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, how did he die?
He had a brain aneurysm, but he was a level 1. He'd only been there for a couple months. And, the staff would just make fun of him every single day. And so I was a junior staff at that time. And I remember like washing the halls, and he would come out, because at Liahona, you would have to like, if you wanted to use the bathroom or do anything, like you had to ask permission, right? There was no like, you just couldn't walk to the bathroom like you could at springcreek sometimes. So he would come out, he came out all the time. And I remember him like constantly just asking for ibuprofen and complaining about headaches or Tylenol. And the staff like would tell him like, no, like fucking man up, like stop being a bitch, like that kind of shit. It was very like, Liahona was not the place to like, complain about injuries or anything like that. If you did, it was kind of like, remember how you said, like you were telling the story about the cigarettes, but they would make fun of you for that. If you went to Liahona and like let's say like we had to run every single morning, right? We had to run like a couple miles outside. And let's say that you like, sprained your ankle or like injured your knee. You didn't want to like tell anybody that, because if you did, you would be considered like a bitch and you'd be made fun of in group and humiliated, and like nobody wanted to fucking deal with that. So I remember he would constantly complain about headaches or migraines, and he was just like, dude, my head hurts. And like the staff would be like, no, go to your room, no ibuprofen, like stop being a bitch and this kind of shit. And so I was like, dude, what the, like, I remember him doing this. And so after he died, I was just like, I was a junior staff. So I had access to go to like, look at the medical logs. And I went to go look at the medical logs, and I saw that he was taking ibuprofen and Tylenol almost every single day since he had been there. And, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. And so the thing is like, you can look into like almost any like ibuprofen bottle. It's going to tell you, if you take this longer than 2 weeks, go consult your doctor about it. And the thing is like, there's some people who believe that like he got restrained and, he hit his head. That's what made it like provoke the aneurysm. That's not like, according to like the medical experts, like a lot of aneurysms people are born with, like, it's you can't really control it, but they can catch it. And if they do catch it, the surgery is very dangerous. It's like a 50% chance that you're going to die in most cases of it, but there is a chance you can live. It depends where it is in the brain and how big of an aneurysm it is. The thing is that like when he died, I was working the hall. I was right outside his room, and his roommate came up to me, and he was like, "Hey," he's like, "Taylor's like having a really bad night. I don't know what's going on." And I walked in there, and he was hitting his head on the desk like as hard as he could. And it was just pounding it. And I go up and I grab him, and I'm like, "Dude, are you okay?" And he looks at me, and then like vomit comes out of his mouth. Snot is like just uncontrollably coming out of his nose, and he's like screaming. You could just tell like this is something serious. So I run and get the staff, and I'm like, we need to call 911. And the shift leader was just like, no one is fucking calling 911. No one is doing anything. And he was just pretty much like, at that time, I mean, even though he was still living, he was like brain dead. Like it just, he couldn't speak. He couldn't like recite anything. He didn't know where he was. He wasn't hearing or processing any information. It was really fucking sad. And so the staff had us carry him out to the van. And from Virgin, Utah, they drove him to St. George, which is about like a 40-minute drive. And from there, they took him to an Instacare. And the Instacare didn't fucking know what to do with him. So they life flighted him or transported him over to Vegas. Vegas was like, we don't have the pediatric neurologist to properly diagnose this. We're going to life flight him up to Primary Children's in Salt Lake City. And that's where they properly diagnosed him that, yeah, it was a brain aneurysm and there's no coming back from it. And so his parents pulled the plug. But the point of it is that, like, I don't really give a shit what the fuck that, like, the program has to say that, like, oh, he was born with this was out of our control. Like, I don't really care. That's a terrible fucking argument to use. What I care about is the fact that this kid did not have, like, access to a phone. He didn't have any fucking freedom or rights to, like, fend for himself. He should have had the right to go see a doctor or to call his parents or to do something. Like, the fact that that was stripped and taken away from him is fucking bullshit. Like, there should have been a fighting chance. Like, if he would have, you know, like, gone to see a doctor and been taken seriously about these headaches, you know, like a month prior to this, yeah, he could have had a life-saving surgery. Like, even if he died on the operating table, I think that's, like, that makes more sense. It's like, at least he had the chance. The fact that he didn't, the fact that he was denied and that he was made fun of and called like a liar and a faker, and he fucking died because these jackasses just don't want him fucking talking to his parents or to the outside world. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. You know, it's a very traumatic fucking thing that happened. And, you know, there are several people who were there with me when they, you know, who saw this as well. It was traumatizing.
I will bet, and that's absolute bullshit. Were you there when we were forced to watch the Montana Meth Project when Graham Macker got there?
I was, yeah. I was in honor with you, actually.
Yeah. What the fuck was that, dude? They like made us watch that shit, but they won't let us watch R-rated movies. Like, what the hell?
Yeah. That was interesting. And like that was like what was interesting about like at Liahona, for instance. Like we couldn't watch R-rated movies. We couldn't even watch like most PG-13 movies. Getting a movie night there is actually really difficult. But for instance, like they would in group sometimes they would have us put on boxing gloves and fight each other or like wrestle each other. And I'm like, wait, so we can't watch like most movies, but this is the form of the entertainment that we get, is like beating the shit out of each other under staff supervision. Like that's fucking incredible stuff, you know.
Would they? So that's all you do? You wouldn't have like a small groups and talk. You would just fight and stuff.
We did. We would do the boxing glove stuff maybe like once a month. But you know, we did our group every single day. Group was a lot different there than how it was at Spring Creek. Like I feel like at Spring Creek, you know, it was like the documentary did a really good job. Like it was kind of like mini seminar shit of just like tearing each other down and like giving each other like negative feedback of like, this is what you need to do to improve. But there were some groups at Spring Creek I felt like where like we did have real talks. You know, we got into some real shit and we talked about like our feelings or addiction or whatever, and just, you know, especially more as like an upper level. But at Liahona, there was none of that. It was just like fishing for who was breaking rules, you know, who can we consequence, who can we make an ass out of, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so who can we call out to look good?
Yeah, and it was like that, and it was like usually it's the same like fucking 10 kids at every single group that would like get in trouble, unfortunately. So yeah, it wasn't good.
Okay. And then were there any other programs that you went to besides that one?
No, I got sent there twice, you know, 3 times total, about 40 months. And, you know, it was my entire adolescence. And, yeah.
Do you remember them, ever having us go and give speeches for the Montana Meth Project? Because I'm working on a documentary for Spring Creek, and I know that there's a connection between the Montana Meth Project sponsoring kids to go through the program because Graham Macker was one of those kids. So I'm wondering.
Graham, you know, Graham died, right? Unfortunately.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that, like, you're talking about like Spring Creek kids like going to give like speeches for the Montana Meth Project.
Yeah,
or, like,
being,
the Montana
like testimonials, like the program worked for me, and kind of having like a back and forth thing between the Montana Meth Project and Spring Creek. Like maybe they're giving people, they have an incentive to send kids that are struggling with addiction to these programs. see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Giving
Yeah, I do.
scholarships and stuff like that.
Yeah, I remember a little bit of that. I'm surprised that Grant even got fucking sent there. That's just like,
He was only there for a couple months too.
yeah, he was like 17, wasn't he? Like when he got
Yeah.
sent there, like, and then he
Yeah.
walked like right away. Yeah, I remember like handing him his candy, like his candy bar before he like walked down the hill. Forgot his,
Yeah.
you know, his, what was it? His exit plan.
I just wonder what the connection between the two is. But they never had you give a speech or anything like that, or say that the program's awesome or anything like that, did they?
No, nothing like that. I mean, like they had me like give like parents tours and stupid shit like that. That happened a lot more at Liahona than it did at Spring Creek. I would say about like a third of the kids at Liahona, like their parents would actually come look at the facility first before they sent them. They would like sign them over there. But no, I don't like. No, I don't remember too much about it.
Okay. Did you ever hear about any staff? We were in the same family, so probably not. But did you ever hear any about like any staff members like doing drugs or like giving drugs to the students or anything like that when we were there?
Yeah, I did, and I'm gonna keep it anonymous of like who I know about like the students.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
I know that Big Al had an opiate problem. I know that Grant had some problems. I don't think Brad did. This is just like the honor family fathers.
Yeah.
I know that several of like the family mothers as well, like brought some drugs in. But I was actually kind of surprised to learn that Big Al had an issue.
I wouldn't have seen that.
Yeah, but it wasn't like, I don't think he wasn't like shooting up heroin or anything.
No. Probably just like chronic pain or something like that.
Yeah, he had back pain, so I mean, he had his stuff. But I know that a couple students like got in, or a couple of our family members got into it.
Yeah, I remember. Were you there when somebody broke into the back room? I heard something about that. Yep.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know who the two of them were. Like, they were very close to us.
Yeah.
But they decided to do that.
Yeah. Okay. What has been the hardest for you reintegrating into society? What has affected you the most because of these programs?
So I think like when I got out of Spring Creek, I actually did fairly well. Like I still felt like I was kind of myself, and I was extroverted, and I wasn't socially awkward. Like it was easy for me to like remake friends and just kind of like, bounce back into shit. That doesn't mean that I wasn't traumatized, but like I was 15 when I got out. I was very ready to just like have my life back, if that makes sense. But when I got out of Liahona, like, because I ran away.
Can you go into that a little bit? The running away?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. So what happened with that was, let me just check something real quick. Yeah, we're good. So what happened with that was when I got, like, after I watched Taylor die, I was just like, I'm getting the fuck out of this place. Like, I'm not doing this. And my parents actually, they wanted me to stay there until I was 18. I had a full ride scholarship to Dixie State because of my ACT score. So they wanted me to, do you remember Dr. Norm in the documentary? They talked a little bit about him. He bought Cross Creek and turned it into like his own like little, I think it was like a disability program of some sort. But he worked at Liahona. He was one of the therapists there for a while. So my parents like rekindled with him. Before he bought Cross Creek, he owned this program called Crossroads, which was an 18 and older program for like transit. It was actually in St. George, and like all the programs in Southern Utah, like there's a shit ton of them. They would contract with Crossroads for kids who were 18, and this would be like the transition program for like kids who were 18, and they would sign their rights over and stay there for like 6 months to a year, and sometimes even longer, into a whole nother program. So my parents, their ultimatum was like, hey, you're going to sit in Liahona until you're 18, and then you're going to go to Crossroads with Dr. Norm, and you're going to graduate that program, and you're going to go to Dixie State at the same time. You have a full ride scholarship there, and that's what you're going to do. And I was just like, absolutely fucking not. I'm not fucking doing that. Like, I spent my entire, like, fucking, adolescence in these places. I'm not spending any of my adult days in here. So at Liahona, there was 2 facilities that they had when I was there. So Liahona had a facility in a place called Leeds, Utah, which was a little bit outside of Lubbock, Utah. It's a very small town. And it wasn't a facility, it was a house, like an actual fucking house. And this is where Liahona started. I think they opened in like 2002 or 2003. So it was a newer program. But when Liahona first started, there was like 5 or 6 kids that were sent there. And they just lived at this house, you know. So the owner like kept the house for the upper level kids to go spend the night at, so they could fill more beds up at the lower level facility. So every single night when we were in upper level, about like 6 to 8 of us would hop in the van and we would spend the night at Leeds, Utah. So when I was at Leeds, there was a phone. There's 2 phones actually. And when the night staff wasn't looking, I would sneak over to that fucking phone and I would like just quietly make a phone call. I had like one of my friends' phone numbers memorized. And I was just like, I was like, I need you to give me my other friend's phone number. Do you know it? And he gave it to me. I just memorized it real quick. And I was like, good. And I was making escape plans at this point. So I started like bitching about my wisdom teeth. I was like, oh my God, my wisdom teeth fucking hurt. Like, I really need to get them pulled. And so I knew my parents would like fall for it. They're like, they took like my health concerns seriously to an extent when it came to that. So I was like writing it in every single fucking letter. I was like, I can't eat my food. My wisdom teeth are really starting to hurt me. Like, I don't know what to do. So they, made a deal with the facility. Like, hey, like, can we get his wisdom teeth pulled? I'd already graduated the program. I graduated high school. I'd been there for the 3rd time. Like, the facility was just like, yeah, whatever. We'll send them up to fucking Salt Lake to go do it, So they sent me up to Salt Lake. And the second that I got into Salt Lake, I made a phone call. And luckily, my friend picked up. Like, I'm so fucking lucky. It was my friend Lyle. And he was just like, he knew right away when he heard my voice. He was just like, I'm breaking you out, aren't I? And I'm like, yeah. And he's just like, okay. He's like, I'll give you my other friend's number, Pat. And so Pat's my best friend. Both of them are my best friends. But I call my friend Pat, and he's like, I'm gonna come get you right fucking now. And he came and picked me up, and I never looked back. I ran away, and I got away, and I was so fucking lucky that happened. And my parents hired private investigators. Like, I had missing, person signs all over the place, and it was so fucking liberating, though. Like, within 2 weeks after I broke out of there, my friends and I did a road trip over to Miami from Salt Lake City, and we stuck in the Ultra Music Festival. Like, I was living the life. It was so much fun. But the hardest thing for me to like rebound was being able to socialize. Like, it was really fucking hard. I felt like that I almost like I couldn't look people in the face or like talk to people. I don't know if you had that problem.
Yeah, I have a big problem with that. Eye contact is for me.
Yeah, it's like, it was really hard. Like, I didn't know how to text. Like, my friends had to like teach me how to like use a phone. Like, they had to teach me how to drive. They had to teach me like all sorts of shit. Like, it was challenging. Like, I didn't date for a very long time. Like, I struggled, and it was like, I didn't talk to my family for years. Like, I wanted nothing to do with them. And so like my friends, like, literally they're my family. Like, I lived with them. Like, they kind of raised me, and if it wasn't for them, like, I wouldn't be around, so it's been pretty cool. But I don't know if was that the hardest thing for you, was being able to socialize again?
Just like knowing how to like talk to people just in general, and being able to socialize, and just I just have these weird quirks now that I don't know why I have them, but I just do. And it's just people can always tell that there's some shit going on with me, but like, if I just meet somebody, like, I'm not going to tell you about the trauma that I've been through, and I'm probably not even going to tell you for a while. And then like, I just have a problem with like, when do I tell people what, and like, do I even tell them? And if I do tell them, how much do I tell them, and when? Because most people are like, if I were to sit somebody down and like even just say watch the program, right? They're gonna watch that and then they're gonna get traumatized from that and not be able, like, you know. So it's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They just, people just don't get it. Like they just don't get it unless they went through it. It's just been really hard to
Which
make.
I've ran into several kids in Salt Lake who went to Spring Creek with us. I don't know if you remember Mark Dukerstein.
Yeah, I remember.
He was. Him and I were like pretty close. Do you remember Colton Stoneman?
Colton who?
Yeah, he actually Stoneman. He got sent to Jamaica for a little bit.
I might. It sounds a little bit familiar.
Yeah, he was only in Spring Creek for like a couple of months, and then he got sent to Jamaica right away. But Sam's here. I used to talk to him quite a bit, but I haven't
Sam
talked to him in a while.
Wells?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, no, it's cool.
Yeah, just interacting with people in general has just been really hard, and just relationships are really hard. You know, I just struggle with trust a lot. I really have a fucking hard time trusting people. Like even people that I've known for, like, I have a friend that I've known since I was like 3 years old, and like not even him I trust fully. Like I just don't trust people fully. Like I will never I don't think I'll ever trust a person 100%. Like I don't feel like I can. Like it's really just, I've also, having been addicted to hard drugs for a long time too, like I just know so clearly what people are capable of, and people are literally capable of anything you can think of. People have done it. Like, and it's just, and it's
very true. It's very true. I know exactly what you're talking about. Like it's nuts.
And it's just, there's just stuff that you never would think somebody would do, and that they will do it. And sometimes it's like the person that you thought was your best friend will do that shit, and then it's just like, what the fuck, dude? So
yeah, they turn into like, it's like the gift that keeps on giving. You know, it's fucking nuts. I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Are you able to like tell when people are being fake too?
Yeah, it's like you have like
for people's
you have like
a
you have like an incredible spidey sense. Like it's very interesting. And that's one thing I've noticed. Like I don't ever remember being like that like hyper aware of people until like after these places, especially Liahona. Like it's crazy. And I think like a large part of it, Liahona, is because like you spend so much time just in silence. Like when I'm talking, man, like we did not fucking talk there. And like even when you were an upper level and you were allowed to talk, like you had to get the quote first to even be able to talk. But if you were able to talk, the shit you were like allowed to talk about was like fucking nothing. Like you couldn't talk about like anything, man. If you even said a word that replaced a swear word, like if you said crap, you get an essay. If you said dang it, you would get an essay. If you said, oh my gosh, you would get an essay. Like like I'm not fucking playing here. Like it was insane. So you just spent most of the time in silence. Dude, I remember, like, what's funny, I got dropped at fucking Spring Creek for stealing all that candy, which like it kind of makes sense. I think they deserve it more than I fucking did, but
yeah.
I got dropped at Liahona for reading a fucking book. I lost everything. I lost my Christmas visit. I spent 4 Christmases away from my family. Like that's the thing. I read a book on the history of DJs, on disc jockeying. And because like DJing was related to the racing, they considered that I was relapsing on drugs. It's this like what in the fuck? Like that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, so I think the fact that I spent so much time in silence, man, like I had nothing else to do but just observe people and observe shit. So you just like look for the craziest things. And I'm sure you understand exactly what I'm talking about. But like, it's like, when you're around, like, when you're in a bad situation or when you're around people that you're just not going to be able to trust. And unfortunately, sometimes you stick around for them to like prove you right. But most of the time, like your intuition, it's like, you fucking solid.
Yeah.
Which is crazy for me.
Yeah. Definitely. Do you think you're ever gonna tell your mom how it felt to be in a place like this? Where are you with your parents? I've forgiven my parents, but I'll never forget what they've done to me.
So my dad, he went to prison, and he spent about 4 years in prison. And he died in 2020 of COVID. I didn't really get to say goodbye to him, but I had a really, he had dementia when he was in there as well. So he was really losing it, and it was sad. There's a form of dementia called Lewy body dementia, which is a prion disease. It's where the proteins in the brain fold. It's in the same category as like mad cow disease, but it's not, or it's like Creutzfeldt-Jakob's disease, but it's not as progressive or like aggressive as that. It's a slower process, but still, he lost his ability to walk. He got really slow. He would forget things. It was really sad, but it was powerful because he wrote me several letters, and I had several phone calls with him where, just by him sitting in prison, he was just like, this is really hard. This is hell. I can't imagine what the hell you were going through when you were there. And, he apologized, and he felt really bad. And, for me, that was like really powerful. Like I was super fucking close to my dad. And I love him, and I miss him every single fucking day. But for my mom, no, well, I don't ever really expect an apology. We're not close at all. We don't really like each other. I'll talk to her every now and then, but I really just keep my distance. I more feel bad for her. The thing is that like when the documentary came out, like I really just wanted to be like, you should watch this. You should like see this. But I think for me with her, it's just like everything that she's gone through with like losing my dad and having my dad go to prison. Like I kind of feel like in a weird way it would break her if I brought this up.
That's how I feel about my dad. My dad has Alzheimer's, and every time I see him, he asks me, he's like, did Spring Creek break you, and did it destroy you, or what? Did you actually get something out of it? And the fact that he dwells on that just like breaks my fucking heart. Like the fact that he thinks about that means that he feels guilty every single fucking day for sending me there. He didn't even want me to go. Like he didn't even want me to be there. It was my mom that was like, if you're either going along with this or we're getting a divorce, and they ended up getting a divorce anyways. So I totally feel that.
Yeah. And that it's tough. I'm grateful that I got to have that closure. And like, I don't know what your dad's like stage is with anything, I'm really sorry that you're going through that shit, man. I've been through it. It's rough, watching him go through it. But like having that closure for me, at least, like that was powerful. I never expected I was going to have that. But I kind of feel as if my mom, I'm just more to the point where it's like, am I upset? Like I got transported and kidnapped 3 times. I got sent away. I spent my entire adolescence in these places. Like I don't know what it's like to have like a real teenage life. And I feel like it set me back and held me back in a lot of ways. Like I didn't, I lost so much, and it was really tough, and it was scary being in these places, and it was just, you were there too. But at the same time, I think with her, I just kind of realized like, if I can't forgive you, then I'm going to at least forgive myself that I can't forgive you. Like, that's the best I can do. But I'm not going to bring it up. I don't want to talk about it. Like I've talked about it, and I've tried to bring it up, and she'll just lash out and be like, you were on all these fucking drugs. What the fuck did you want me to do with you? And it's just like, no, I wasn't. Like you had no like evidence of that. Like you never drug tested me. You never confronted me. Like you just, what the fuck are you talking about? And just, she'll just like roll her eyes and just be like, she's like, don't fucking bullshit me, Jeff. Like, it's just not a conversation she wants to have. But for me, like this last week, especially, like, having my friends, like, who are my family. Like I consider them my family. I spend, in the little bit of free time that I have, like I spend with them. I hang out with them. They've been there with me, like through thick and thin. Like the fact that like they like apologize, that they're just like, I had no fucking idea this is what the hell you were going through, you know, and just, they cried and I cried, like, and it's emotional. Like having that means everything to me. Having people who like understand, you know, and I think that's what a lot of survivors want. They just want to be understood. Because like I said, it's hard to articulate like what the fuck we went through. Like, I don't know if you've struggled with it. Like, how do you describe this to people? You know, like,
I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where the fuck to start.
You know, it's crazy. It's just like, yeah, I was in like, for a while, like I just told people I was in rehab or some shit. Like I didn't know how the fuck to like describe this shit. Like I was in this like behavior modification fucking, you know, con boarding school type of place. I don't know, but you know, I think that like people are finally starting to get it, and it's a big time for survivors. It's cool to see this happening.
Definitely. If you could go back in a time machine, knowing what you know now and not go through these places, would you do it, and why?
Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. Like I feel like I learned a lot. Like in some ways, like, you know, yeah, there's an argument to be made that like, you know, we develop from our trauma and we learn a lot about ourselves from our trauma, but too much trauma can be too much trauma, and maybe like that's not a good thing. And I think this is one of those instances, right? Like I think that, you know, for me at least, yeah, the relationships that I made with the people in there, I don't regret that. Like I love that. And I think that in like some sense, like you talked about, like it's as hard as it is to, you know, talk to people, the relationships that you do have in your life, you know how to keep them close. You know how to be, you know how to be intimate in them or involved with them. And I feel like I learned that in the program. Like you hold on to the ones you love, and you love as hard as you fucking can, because you don't know what the fuck's gonna happen to someone. But yeah, overall, I would change it. I would not fucking, I could go back. Yeah.
Okay.
That doesn't mean, yeah. What about you?
It's a mixed bag. I don't want to go through that trauma again, but I made so many relationships and friendships that I don't know. There's a lot of points in my life where I was glad that I had those people in my life. So I don't know if I would have been alive if I didn't have those friendships. But at the same time, would I have even used hard drugs if I didn't go to the program? So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, you know?
Yeah. I think overall, like, yeah, I would not, I just wish I never got sent away. You know, I don't wish on anybody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And that's totally fine. Let's see. Is there anything else you want people to know about your experience? Or wait, hold on a second. Is it your belief, knowing what you know now, that these places should or even could be fully regulated, or is it your belief that they should be shut down?
Fully shut down. Fully shut down. I don't think it should exist.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I don't believe in treatment. Like I do believe that there should be. I think that like this is just not the troubled teen industry. Like we should be thinking like how like about treatment in general, in the way that, you know, we think of things like addiction or disease or diagnoses. That doesn't mean like I'm anti-psychology or anything, but this stuff just doesn't happen like in the troubled teen industry. Like it happens all over the fucking place. And, you know, it is like more of a political discussion to have. And I'm not going to do that on your show, obviously. But I think that like, yeah, like in general, they shouldn't fucking exist. And I don't like, look at the recent regulation in Utah. Like I live in fucking Utah. I understand these dipshits like Mike McKell and fucking Rex Schiff and Spencer Cox. Like these are fucking clowns, man. And I'm not gonna get into like political shit. I'm just saying, like, dude, they just signed into law the Sovereignty Act. Like they like, you know, and like what does that entail? Like that's what was so like comical to me about this is like you had Mike McKell in the documentary saying like, oh, I would like to see some sort of like federal regulation against these places because like God forbid I fucking do anything in the state of Utah, you know? And but then they just signed the law, the Sovereignty Act, where they believe that the state has more rights than the federal government. I mean, like, are like, really? Like, no, this is the problem with this. Like, the regulation should be, they just shouldn't fucking exist. I don't know what you believe about that, but.
I definitely believe they should all be shut down. I don't even think they could be fully regulated, but I think it's a fair question to ask. You know what I mean? Because some people don't feel like we can get them to shut down. So for some people, it would be better to have that than nothing. But I believe they should all be shut down. I don't feel like we could even fully regulate them in a safe way.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, like, there's like $700,000 like funded in the state of Utah each year to like oversee them, and it's just for, you know, a couple state auditors to like look at the, you know, the restraint reports. I don't know how far that really fucking goes. That, you know, it's not doing much. Like, what's the next step from here? Like, you know, it's just the thing about, like, you know, regulating them, it just turns into like data collection, and I don't want to give these places the chance to manipulate that at all, and they will. But you know, what the next step is to like get them shut down, I'm not really fucking sure on that either. Like, it's, you know, I think it's hard to live right now, for, as you know, like, it's just not easy for a lot of people. And you know, I think that it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next, I guess, like 5 to 10 years with this and this movement. Definitely.
What do you think you needed instead of being sent away? What do you think that would have helped you back in the day?
A hug. Like, for real. I just needed parents, or, you know, someone to fucking believe in me and to listen and talk to me. I needed my dad. I needed my dad to not be scared of my mom divorcing him, and I needed him to just be like, what can I do for you? You know? Yeah, I had a little bit of issues. I was defiant. I was extremely argumentative, you know, but I think that a couple of discussions and like some support would have helped.
Okay. Is there anything else you want people to know about your experience or reintegration in society afterwards, or any of that, or anything you'd tell a parent thinking about sending their kid away?
And it took years to like reintegrate into society. Like, it was really hard. And, you know, I had a lot of great support throughout the years from my friends, from professors, from, you know, just, and I couldn't have done it without them. It's been powerful. You know, there's one person in particular, like, I love so much. It was a professor I met in my undergrad. I studied philosophy in my undergrad, and like, just an amazing guy. He actually was doing his dissertation on the concept of addiction and disease, and you know, it really like ignited like a strong relationship with him and I, being sent to these places because he didn't know what they were. So he was a huge part in, I would consider, like my therapy or my healing process of like trying to make sense of all this stuff. And, you know, I guess there's like some mental masturbation with like some philosophical concepts or whatever, but it felt real to me, and it helped me. And I, you know, it wasn't just, you know, doing academia shit. It was really talking about this stuff. And it was one of the first people to like look at me and be like, dude, how the fuck do you feel about all this? You know? And it's a huge shout out to that person. I won't say his name. He knows who he is, but, you know, and my friends and just everyone. But to any parents who are looking to send their kids here, I would say, like, just don't even do it. You know, don't even fucking go down that rabbit hole. Don't even try. Don't go to these places and talk to these people. Don't try to question them. Like, you know, these are people. These are salespeople. A lot of these people went on Mormon missions. Like, they work sales jobs afterwards. Like, they're used to this kind of shit. Like, they get off on this crap. It's like they really do believe that they're, like, you know, doing some fucking, you know, native inspired bullshit for the Mormon church or whatever. Like, I don't fucking know. It's ridiculous. So yeah, don't even try. Don't even like look at sending your kids to these places. It's not worth it for anyone. there's no reward. It's just all risk. It's a very big risk. And sadly, I'm not going to mention names, but there's a comment made in the documentary about, it was one of the journalists. He said that, like, I'm not worried about the kids that were hurt from these places. I'm worried about the kids that were successful. It's funny. You and I both know, I won't say names, we know a couple people who became extremely successful after these places. These are people who were CEOs, they're shareholders on different boards, and I'm not fucking surprised, like, by their career paths whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And these are people in the program who it was literally just validating the Stanford prison experiment. These are people who got off on power. They love to have the authority to reprimand kids, to flex their bullshit or whatever. And now
they're in a corporate setting.
Yeah, now they're staying in a corporate setting, and they have capital on their side. So it's sad. And so there's no good outcome from this, in my opinion.
Do you know how we stop this? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit deep, but do you know how we stop this?
In what sense? Like legally?
I mean, like, what do you think the next step is? Just like getting the stories out there, like I'm doing, or what else?
I think media attention is a beautiful thing, and I think that bringing a media spotlight to it is, in content creation, what you're doing is one of the only tools that we have. Throughout all of history, this is like we're living in throughout one of the times where we have the least amount of political participation that we've ever had. The only thing we can really do these days is vote. Like, I mean, yeah, this is newer. I'm not trying to get super political. I know that some people like to make this a political issue, and like I get where they're coming from. I'm not arguing any of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it will take a political movement to do it. But I think that collectivizing and organizing are two of the biggest things. I think that a lot of people, especially survivors, when they go through these places, they're met with trauma. Like, they come out traumatized, and then they're forced to face a traumatized system, which is, capitalism. Like, it is neoliberalism. Like, I'm sorry to be too cliche on that, but I guess I will say it. Like, and that's hard for people to fucking face and to coexist in. Like, you don't take someone who is that fucking hurt and have them already go to a system where they're just going to be more damaged without any kind of support. It's rough. So my advice, I don't really know if I have anything. Like, I know that some activists do some good work, and I really do appreciate what they do. Sadly, I don't have the time to do that. I'm very busy, but like, I do love that they do it. But we need to organize. We need to work in numbers, and we can't be at each other's throats. I think that every survivor has something to pitch into this, and the more we have in numbers, the better. We can't look for superheroes. We can't try to just expect like one senator, like a group of like Justice Democrats to get together and just make this an issue. Like, it as much as I would like that, like, I don't know. We have to follow collectivizing, that kind of model off of it. We work in numbers, and then we have power. And you see this with labor unions, and that is a powerful thing that's popping up. And when I see stuff like that, yeah, that shit gives me hope. And follow that, organize, get together, community, and it's love at the end of the day. And that's the best advice that I have.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I loved having you. If you ever,
thank you, Jordan.
Yeah, if anything comes up and you want to do part 2, let me know, bro. And one of these times, I know that fucking weed's not legal up there or anything, but we're gonna have to plan out a visit, bro. We're gonna have to plan out something.
I travel often, so I'm gonna be heading up to Seattle in the next little bit, and when I do, I'm gonna stop by and see you.
All right, cool, for sure, yeah. All right, thank you guys for watching so far in the video. Make sure you hit the like button, share, like, and let's get these motherfucking places shut down. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out.
Have a good one. See you, Jordan.